And when we talk about finish in a painting, too often we start to think in terms of detail. And the definition of detail being small little value changes, small dark and lights, and we break up a big area into smaller little darks and lights. And the problem with that is we can overdo it real easily and it becomes too busy, and we lose that overall sense of value relationships between the large areas, and we lose the sense of light because the detail takes over. So I think it's more important to think in terms of broken color, where we have the same value in a large area and very little value change, but a lot of broken color, and that gives it more of a sense of finish with just a little bit of value change. And we tend to think the other way, and I think a lot of that comes from photographs, because a camera sees everything equally. It'll see just as much detail, little darkened lights in the right corner as it does around the center of interest. So everything becomes sharp, focused, a lot of small details, and that we just lose that overall sense of light. And we tend to think of the camera as reality, so if we render what the camera sees, then the painting will work. And it just doesn't work that way. And I have a few paintings here that show that real well. This painting is by John Follansbee, an early 20th century landscape painter from Pennsylvania. And you can see in the front here, down in the lower right hand corner, with all the greens and the foliage in the yellow and orange trees, there is small dark and light detail. A lot of value changes within this area. Same thing in the light area, kind of in the middle down below. And this is up front. The more detail you have up front, the more it pulls it forward. You don't want to overdo it, but he does have the detail in here. But notice the plane and the value and color of the sky, the background trees, and the water. They're all very simple values. One value for the sky, but 3 or 4 different colors. He's got bluish green, he's got some yellow, some orange, some pink. And all those colors, it's a very subtle color change because they're all the same value, but it gives it a sense of finish without detail. Same thing with the trees back in here. They're also a blue-green, but there's blue-violet in there, some red-violet, some pink. Again, all somewhat very close to the same value. So it's a very subtle color change and little or no value change. Same thing with the water. He's got a lot of the warm pink or a cool orange, bluish green, blue-violet in the water. And they're all so close in value, it doesn't look busy. Here it gets busy, and he does that on purpose to pull it forward. Same thing with the trees, although a lot of the trees there isn't a lot of value change. There's some. It's mostly color change. Same value, different color. This area right in here, mostly the same value, and several different colors. And it really has a nice effect. The colors vibrate when they're next to each other, especially warm and cool colors, and gives the painting a lot more interest. But what makes this painting work, again, is the simplicity of the larger shapes, especially in the background and in the water, and the subtle broken color that gives it a sense of finish. Have a Edgar Payne here. Same thing here. A lot of flat areas, flat dark for the trees. A little bit of broken color in the greens. Same value, but several different greens. A little bit of subtle value change. But you can really see it in the mountains back in here in the light area. It's got 2 or 3 different values, but several color changes in here. And both the value and the color changes are very subtle. They're not big jumps in value, not real dramatic. The dramatic value change is in the big shapes, between the sky and the darks in the mountains, between the light and dark in the mountains. But the big shapes are broken up with subtle color change. In the shadows here, you can see it goes from the blue-violet down to kind of the reddish violet and some orange, caused mainly, I guess, from the sunlight hitting the ground here and bouncing back into it, reflected light. But nice subtle color change in there. Subtle color change in the light area in this rock down here in the lower left corner. It's an orange rock, but there's greens, there's yellow greens, some violets. So a lot of color in there, but it has still an overall sense of a real light, warm orange color. And very little detail anywhere. Not a lot of small, little dark and light accents. And that makes you focus on the bigger shapes, and then the broken color gives it more of a refined, more finished look. I have 3 paintings here by Robert Vanneau, American Impressionist, late 19th century, I think, maybe early 20th. But here also, what stands out is the large shapes. You know, the large shape of the sky, large shapes of the 3 rooftops, the grass, the flowers, the walls on the buildings. Not much small, dark, and light value changes, except where you get into the bushes here. And a little bit in windows and some detail, but most of it holds together because it keeps everything simple. But then he breaks up those large areas with color change. A little bit of value change on this roof right here, darker and gradually getting lighter. But it's the subtle color change that makes it look more finished or more refined. Not the little, it's not drawing every little dark and light detail he sees on the roof. No value changes under every shingle. It gives a suggestion of texture and finish with the color change. Same value, but several different colors. Same thing with the roofs up here, from oranges, red violets, even a little bit of green. And in here too, blue violet, some grade orange. So a lot of color change, one value. Down in here, a little bit of value change in these greens, but he's got 3 or 4 different greens, but real close in value. The only detail is mostly in here, maybe in the windows, but everything else is kept very simple. Another one here, more of a sunny day, but you can see the broken color underneath the bridge. One overall value, pretty much except where the reflected light gets a lot lighter. But a lot of broken color in there. And when those, especially the warm and cool colors are next to each other, you get a lot of vibration. Even in the white, and this doesn't show up in the photograph very well, but the white building has several colors in it, same value. And with white, there's a lot of color in white on a flat wall and someone's white shirt and white snow. But it's so white, you have to have so much white in your mixture that just a little bit of color gives it a subtle color change, and you don't notice it as much because most of these mixtures are 90-95% white, and the white really desaturates and knocks down the color, so it's real subtle. You can see it in the shrubbery here. It's an overall kind of an olive green, but there's a lot of orange, yellow green, green, a lot of variety in that one value of green. Same thing with the water down here. Broken red violets, oranges within that blue water. So you can see think through a lot of detail just by adding subtle color change. This is another Robert Vanneau. Very atmospheric, very early in the morning looks to me, but a lot of moisture or mist in the air, so edges very soft everywhere, and not a lot of darks and lights except in the trees and the branches in the lower part, but the upper part is just a variety of color, going from reds, red violet, blue green, blue violet, a lot of color variation in there. But again, real close to the same color. Sky also is kind of a bluish green with a lot of warm reds, oranges in here, red violets. So when we think of finish in a color, I think it's better to think in larger shapes in terms of same value, different colors, and restrict your small value changes to just around the focal point.